Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Bayishem, Baraka Kodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bayishem, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off with Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And this isn't talking about the ancient Hamitic Egyptians. This is talking about the modern-day spiritual Egyptians, you American Edomites, or so-called white people. Besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. And not only is a violent race war coming to the U.S., but a second civil war, and it's coming quickly. You can clearly see over the past decade that tensions have been boiling up between Edomites from different walks of life and ideological groups, and the tensions have especially escalated during this coronavirus lockdown, these George Floyd and anti-police brutality protests, and now with these leftist Edomites, which a lot of them are agent provocateurs, tearing down these historic Edomite statues. You've got right-wing Edomite militia groups coming out to protect the statues. And as we'll see from this video on the Timcast YouTube channel titled, Far Leftist Gets Shot After Beating Right-Wing Man Who Tried Defending a Statue from Being Torn Down, these Edomites have gone from throwing words to throwing lead. We may very well have seen the first shots fired of the Second American Edomite Civil War.
Yesterday, some far-left activists got a lesson in what happens when people without guns try to fight people with guns. And one of these far-left Antifa-type individuals got shot, I believe, possibly several times. The gist of the story, so I don't bury the lead, is that a group of far-leftists were trying to tear down a statue. A militia, they call themselves the New Mexico Civil Guard, showed up to defend the statue. When scuffles broke out, things got heated. Eventually, the New Mexico Civil Guard started to back off, and the far leftists threw a rope over the statue and tried pulling it down. One man who is presumed to be a member of the militia was in a scuffle with the far left extremists, who then started, hitting him and beating on him. He may have pepper sprayed. Somebody may have pepper sprayed. It's hard to know exactly what happens. But following this first scuffle, what happens next is clear. A man in a blue shirt begins to retreat from the crowd, to run away. Several people then chase after him, yelling things like, "Get him." One guy yells something like, "We're going to kill you." Two people are seen on video beating this man, who draws his weapon. You can see it in his hand. And there's a guy, I think he's hitting him with a skateboard. And the guy in the blue shirt who's being beaten then fires several shots. The man who was wearing all black is then laying on the ground as medics come to treat him. The New Mexico police, I believe it's the police, come in and they arrest the New Mexico Civil Guard, the militia. Now, it's interesting to me and worrisome, in fact, that I believe local politicians have come out against the local militia, saying that they were showing up with guns to intimidate the crowd, and that presents a very, very serious problem. The police weren't enforcing protecting public property, that these protesters had the intent to destroy, to make an offensive maneuver, albeit against property. And the New Mexico Civil Guard came out to defend that property. There's a big difference between defense and offense. If you want to see a statue taken down, you can vote on it. We are a nation of laws. We're not a nation of angry, random mobs of a small group of people deciding they get to determine what's best for us. Unfortunately, for the people in New Mexico, the police are not enforcing these laws, and they're not protecting your property. So this gives way to right-wing groups to stand up and defend the property where the state won't. Now, this is not an endorsement of anything they're doing. I'm saying it's a natural consequence. Somebody will rise up to try and uphold the law if the police won't do it.
And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, every man against his brother.
So there's the gist of things. I want to read this story for you, and we've got some updates. Some people are trying to argue that the man who shot was antagonizing the crowd, therefore it's justified. that they were beating him. I'm sorry, man. Listen, they chased after him. That's it. That's it. No matter what he did, up until he could have insulted their mothers and smacked them around and flicked their ears and threatened their lives. But as soon as he ran away and they chased after him, they became the aggressors, and they lose, in, as far as I can tell, legal standing. But I'm not a lawyer, so we'll see how things play out. But a lot of people I do see saying, look, man, if someone's running away and you yell, we're going to kill you, and then several people start beating on you, I'm pretty sure that's clear-cut self-defense. The New York Times says, man is shot at protest over statue of New Mexico's conquistador. 2 statues of Juan de Oñate are being removed after long simmering tensions between Native Americans and Hispanics over Spain's conquest of New Mexico. Gunfire broke out during a protest Monday night in Albuquerque to demand the removal of a statue of Juan de Oñate, the despotic conquistador of New Mexico, whose image has become the latest target in demonstrations across the country aimed at writing a history of racial injustice. Oh, and don't you love just how the New York Times frames everything? As dozens of people gathered around the statue of Oñate, New Mexico's 16th century colonial governor, shouting matches erupted over proposals to take it down, and a man was shot, prompting police officers in riot gear to rush in. Perhaps the police officers should have been there in the first place to stop a mob of lunatics from tearing down public property. Okay, look, I'll be honest, I don't know the inner workings of this local jurisdiction, I believe, in Albuquerque. Maybe the mob, for some reason, was sanctioned to do it. I have no idea. But look, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter who was right or wrong about the statue. It doesn't matter if the guard was right or wrong to keep it, if the protesters were right or wrong to leave it. It matters that they chased after a guy and started beating him. All right, let's read. The man who was unidentified was taken away in an ambulance, and the police took into custody several members of a right-wing militia who were dressed in camouflage and carrying military-style rifles. It was not clear whether any of them had fired the shot. Witnesses said the gunman was a white man in a blue t-shirt. So I believe we do have an update here. They say, police used chemical irritants and flashbangs to protect officers and detain individuals involved in the shooting, the Albuquerque Police Department said in a news release. The individuals were disarmed and taken into custody for questioning, not arrested. Chief Michael Gear of the Albuquerque Police Department said on Twitter that authorities were investigating reports that vigilante groups instigated the violence. If this is true, he said, the department will be holding them accountable to the fullest extent of the law, including federal hate group designation and prosecution. Do you know where this goes? Law enforcement? Man, do we have serious problems in this country. Our local law enforcement sits idly by and does nothing as mobs are going around destroying statues. They tore down a statue of Thomas Jefferson. They're not just targeting conquistadors. And these cops are doing nothing about it. I'm not saying it's right for anyone to show up with guns and defend this property. I'm saying it will keep happening, it will get worse, and they will turn on you. In South Philadelphia, I think like 100 plus, maybe hundreds of men showed up with, mostly with nothing but some with baseball bats, guarding a statue of Christopher Columbus from far leftists. It's going to keep happening. It's going to escalate. You're going to see more militias show up. The police are then going to say, but the mobs are allowed to do this. Are you nuts? Maybe if the police would actually stop this. It's really funny to sit back, watching this from afar as the police and our government do literally nothing as violent mobs destroy our cities, riot, and tear down statues. And it just keeps getting worse. And then they do nothing but blame the militias that are saying, hey, how about you don't go around destroying things?
And that's going to further lead to these Egyptians fighting against these Egyptians with these right-wing militia group, patriotic Edomites, seeing that the government's not for their best interests. They're going to start going against the Edomites in the government. This is 2 Ezra chapter 15. I'm going to read verse 15 through 16. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. The Egyptians against the Egyptians. These Edomites from different walks of life fighting each other. And also these coming race wars, one race of people standing up and fighting against another, and swords in their hands. And that sword can be a multitude of things, skateboards, bats, sticks, but ultimately Esau Edom's modern day sword, the gun. For there shall be sedition among men, And when you read the definition for that word sedition, it means conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against a ruling authority or monarch. And seeing your country get torn down right before your eyes would definitely lead people to be seditious towards their government, which they see no longer has their best interests at heart, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and your modern day kings and princes are your political figures, like your governors, mayors, senators, presidents, prime ministers, etc., etc., as well as the authorities that uphold the system, like the police and military. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. We're living in some very beautiful and interesting times, Akim. Our enemy, Esau Edom, is about to go at each other's throats. And you Jakes, don't get involved in this. What's happening in this country has nothing to do with you. Your main priority right now should be coming back to your power, Yahweh Ba'ishim Yahushai, and trying to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability, so you can hopefully be of that elect number and be shielded from these coming civil wars and race wars. Because if you do get involved and try to fight for this country and be a patriotic American, these Edomites that you're going to try to side with are going to be the very ones that are going to put you down dead like a dog. And now I'm going to go to the 17-minute and 15 mark.
The complete abolishing of the Minneapolis Police Department to be replaced by something else. It's a dismantling of our country. They're tearing down Thomas Jefferson now. And you know where this goes. Somebody tweeted, let's stop pretending that we don't think, that this doesn't end with the burning of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence or otherwise. Absolutely. They tore down Thomas Jefferson. I know where this is going. Listen, every country on this planet was in some effect conquered by someone else. It doesn't mean we have to be happy about it. It means we just stop doing it. But you can't then go and try and reverse everything and start destroying property because you don't like the fact that you live somewhere where someone else hundreds of years ago, 400 or 500 years ago, came and took it over. If we were to reverse everything, how far back do we go? Who do we eventually give everything back to? It's an endless cycle that makes no sense. In my opinion, it's meant to destabilize us. And that's what's happening. We are being destabilized with these protests and with these riots, and you are going to see lines drawn in the sand. When people show up legally open carrying, and a bunch of far-left protesters try to destroy property, and the guys who didn't break the law are the criminals. That's amazing, isn't it? The way the mayor and the governor have framed this, they're blaming the people who showed up in every legal capacity to which they were allowed. The mob that showed up was there to commit a crime. They chased after the guy and beat him. And the guys who got chased after and beaten, who weren't committing a crime, are the bad guys. Now, again, like I said, you can argue that you don't like the ideology of them. That's fine. But it doesn't change the facts. What is happening, I think, is, logic and reason is losing the fight. It doesn't matter. If you're on their ideological side, you're okay. They'll protect you, they'll defend you, and this can only end with one thing. And I've said it over and over again, and I think it's hilarious how many people told me it could never happen. It could never happen. Civil war in this country. I said it several years ago, I think we're dangerously close, and I think it's escalating. I think it'll get worse. And I repeatedly said, if you think it's bad now, wait until 2020. Things are going to light up with this election coming up.
And what does Apostle Tahar deem the year 2020 to be? The year of prophecy. And Yahweh willing, the civil war and race war kicks off in 2020. That's it with this video. And now I'm going to go to an event posting on Facebook titled, American Patriots Retake the Seattle Occupation Zone for America, and it's scheduled for July 4th to further show how Yahweh Ba'ishim Yahushai is setting the Egyptians against the Egyptians. Like Tim Pool just said, things are only going to escalate from here on out. On July 4th, Independence Day, a coalition of patriot groups and all who want to join are going to retake the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone for America. Antifa members are illegally occupying public property and terrorizing small businesses in the neighborhood. American patriots have agreed to come together again, remove the barricades illegally obstructing traffic, and free the people in the zone. We will meet at Volunteer Park throughout the morning, and then in the early afternoon, march on the Chaz. You do not need a bike to join. Any and all patriots with all vehicles are coming to this event. We are not going to hurt anybody, break the law, etc. We are simply going to tear down the illegal barriers on public property, clean up the mess these communist kids made, and return the police station over to Seattle Police Department control. And Yahweh willing, this event takes place, and these different Edomite groups do go at each other's throats. But whether or not that happens, it's all just a further indicator of the signs of the times, that civil war is coming to the streets of America, and that the rulership of Esau Edom is about to end. This is Mark chapter 3, verse 24 to 25. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And not only is the kingdom of the United States of America divided, but Esau Edom's global kingdom as a whole is divided. The last leg of the fourth beast, those iron toes mixed with miry clay, the reincarnated Roman Empire, the NATO-EU alliance that the U.S. is a part of. The U.S. is constantly fucking over their European Edomite brothers. The European Edomites are starting to turn against their American Edomite brothers, and there's even infighting between these different Edomite European nations, and it's all going to culminate in those European Edomites completely turning against America and allying themselves with their Russian Edomite brothers, along with China and other nations, and together they're going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the U.S., turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. Verse 25, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And like I said at the beginning of the video, Edomites from all different walks of life and ideological backgrounds are at each other's throats. The Edomite woman is against the Edomite man with feminism versus MGTOW. The Edomite children are against their parents. Young Edomites are against old Edomites with the millennials versus the baby boomers. Religious Edomites are against atheist Edomites. LGBTQ Edomites are against so-called straight Edomites. Liberal Edomites are against conservative Edomites. Average Joe Edomites are against rich Edomites, etc., etc. So that's it with this video. I hope you sincere Akim were edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathens, chiefly Esau Edom. And as it says in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 25 verse 7, there be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And we're about to see the fall of our chief enemy among the heathens, Esau Edom. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.